Man, signs or no signs, we might have really been proven to ourselves how this game's going to play out based on how Penn State played against Ohio State. Now, I know that Penn State had to go on the road, and it's a huge advantage for them to get to play at home against Michigan. But Michigan is just such a well-rounded football program. They are one of the most balanced teams in college football, and we have yet to see them in a situation where they've been truly tested. Defensively, they are filled on the back end in their front seven with future NFL players. Their offensive line, I would point out and say they're the best in the country. Their run game is phenomenal. And J.J. McCarthy is in a position where he doesn't have to do too much. And that's why they're continuing to succeed. And I think that this game plays out very similarly to the game that we saw between Ohio State and Penn State.
The number one total defense in the country matches the number two total defense in the country. I do think that this one's going to be a defensive slugfest. I would be surprised if any team is able to pull away here, okay, at any stretch of the imagination. Michigan has the number one passing defense in the country when it comes to passing yards allowed. That does not bother me because they have not been challenged enough for you to say that any of these stats for Michigan, them have the number one total defense, is worth a damn. Okay? I do think that they have played – I don't think that they've played outright nobodies because they play in a really good conference. The problem I have is that they have not been tested by a ranked opponent. They haven't seen a good team, okay? And Penn State will be that team. Here's the problem I have. I still think Michigan's really good at running the football and playing really good defense. I think they got the better quarterback in this matchup. Regardless of what you think, I think they have the better head coach in this matchup. There's outside of home field advantage, there is absolutely nothing that Penn State has an advantage in. I look at all the stats. The only thing that that Penn State has done better than Michigan, is statistically they have a better rushing offense. The problem with that is Michigan was taking guys out, slowing the game down. That doesn't really compute. Every other metric that you would find here, Michigan's going to be number one, but it's skewed. This could be a redemption game for Penn State. This could easily be a redemption in the sense of like, hey, man, you didn't look good offensively against Penn State. You play great on defense. Absolutely fantastic on defense. But, Joe, for me, I don't know if I can trust Franklin and Aller enough for them to pull the upset. I can't lean there yet because I just think that Michigan, like you said, on both lines of scrimmage is better. I think they got the better overall green grass athletes. Whether we want to talk crap about Harbaugh or not, he's still a damn good football coach. They got the better DC, the better OC. And I love Manny Diaz. I'm a Manny Diaz apologist. I just don't know if I would be shocked if Penn State's offense could do enough to get things moving because I know what they did last week, but I also saw them against the best team that they'd seen in Ohio State, and he got shut down. He was flustered. The question ultimately becomes, does that help him? Having that early season matchup, how much does that help a young quarterback in Aller?
Right. That's a good point.
Being at home. So this could be a turnaround game. Is there any possibility of that happening with everything that is surrounding Michigan?
I think you bring up a really good point that it's advantageous that Drew Aller has, he's gotten that bad puke game out of his system. I don't think he played as bad as you thought he did, but I do agree that it's not a performance that is conducive to them winning. They do still lack the receivers, and I stand by this take, to win a football game like this, especially when you're going up against a team that has a quality secondary. More importantly, I don't think that there will be easy opportunities to run the football. Their linebackers are two of the best, most talented linebackers in the country with Michael Barrett and Junior Colson. I think that Junior Colson is good enough to be a top 50 pick. He was my number one rated linebacker coming into the season for the 2024 NFL draft. I am a very big fan of his. That whole front seven, those defensive linemen, there's not a Rashawn Gary or a David Ajabo necessarily on this D line, but they're so balanced in every single spot that they're creating penetration on a snap-to-snap basis, which is going to make things hard running the football. And a lot of pressure is going to be back on Drew Allar's head. So I totally agree that a lot is going to play into how does he play? Can he find Keandre Lambert-Smith? And can he get open? Can they connect with some of these other receivers that just have not been creating separation? But I'm putting this on the table, Blake, that I think that if there is a path for Penn State to pull out this victory, and this is one that Michigan fans might not like, they need to go after and fluster the one person who has been talked up a lot this season, but is clearly JJ McCarthy. He is played very well, but he has also had a number of weak performances, and his worst games are enough to drag down the team. It's enough to bring them down to lower level opponents. If you can pressure him and force him into making bad decisions, you can make this a close football game and you can pull out of it. You absolutely can pull out of it. Now, JJ's been great. I don't know the probability of this happening because he's been improving on a week-to-week basis, but I do not think that JJ McCarthy is a perfect quarterback. And I think that he often shows us some signs, some red flags of mistake-filled football. And it could happen in this game.
Number one, in reference to JJ McCarthy, if I hear him getting compared to Jaden Daniels again, I'm going to freak out. Okay, just throwing that out there.
They're not comparable. They're not. I watched the all 22 of the Purdue Michigan game because I was evaluating some of those players on both those sides of the ball. There are so many errant throws by him, man. He is not accurate. He is not an accurate quarterback, and it's a problem.
The problem with that, he's completing 75% of his passes.
The number is not conducive to the skill. He's completing 70% of his passes, but when he misses, he's throwing behind guys. Guys have to reach and extend. That's what leads to interceptions. And when you're going up against a bad Purdue team and you're playing against all these bad teams in the conference, obviously you're going to go for 70%. But when you're playing against Kalen King and that whole secondary, you're not going to throw for 70%. You're just not going to.
I do see a path where he could play bad. Like I see it. The problem is how bad does he have to play for this offense to look? If Ohio State can shut him out and shut him down, what makes me believe that Michigan can't?
Right. That's a really good point here. If Aller plays as bad as he does against Ohio State,
so I don't know how
aren't far off from one another.
Joe, I got to be honest with you. I don't know how bad he's got to play. I don't think he's going to play bad at all, meaning McCarthy. But he would have to go full TCU.
Well, that's the thing. He's got that in his system, you know. He's got that in this defense. Is Penn State's defense better than
Penn State's not a national championship playing team.
Yeah, but this
second best team in the country.
The Penn State secondary is a million times better than the TCU one last year.
But what I'm trying to say is that look what TCU's defense did to him in a playoff game. Now he's gotten better. I mean, look, players can get better, and I think he's gotten better from that day. Look, Michigan, for what it's worth, okay. I don't know. They're 50th in rushing offense. How, I don't know. They haven't played anybody, but they're up there in time of possession. Again, this goes back to my school of thought. Last thing I'll say this goes back to my school of thought, man. Penn State tries to play to the level of trying to be Michigan and Ohio State, and they're just not. So I'm going to take Michigan in this game. I am going to wait to make an official pick only because I don't know what's going to go on with Harbaugh.